We just got word today that the UFC is apparently working on a fight between Umar Nurmagomedov and Cory Sandhagen. This was discussed on the MMA Hour today. There's a couple different reactions that you could have to this. I'll start with mine. I don't mind this fight. I actually think it kind of makes a bit of sense in the fact that Umar Nurmagomedov is undefeated. He's definitely going to be tested in this fight, going from Raoni Barcelos, who's unranked, to Cory Sandhagen, who's been at the top of the weight class for quite some time. So there's that standpoint of it. And for Sandhagen, he beats an undefeated prospect. How could you deny him a title shot? So from that perspective, I like it. The part I don't like is obviously he's skipping the line, right? He hasn't had a single ranked win. I know people will argue that there's other opponents that are turning down Umar Nurmagomedov, and that might be the case. I mean, I could see a guy like Dominic Cruz, for example, not wanting to fight Umar next. He's at the tail end of his career. I'm sure he doesn't want to be on the highlight reel of an up-and-coming prospect. I understand that. Song Yadong just fought. Rob Font might be an option, although I don't know if he's ready to get back in a rush. Chito Vera's coming off a loss. Piotr Yan, I think, just needs a break, right? He's had a couple tough losses here. And then there's Pedro Munoz, who I think Umar would beat. So from that perspective, I don't mind this fight this much. This is different than the Abus Magomedov-Sean Strickland fight, and I'll talk about that in a sec. But I just feel like this is a situation where I think the UFC, they clearly want to fast-track Umar Nurmagomedov. There was talk earlier, prior to this fight even being discussed, about Umar and Merab Dvalishvili fighting each other. I think that was a worse fight because Merab at least was on a really big winning streak. He had never fought for a title. With Sandhagen, it's a little bit different. He's fought for a title already. Mind you, it was an interim title against Piotr Yan on short notice, but he also lost that fight to Dillashaw. I think he won that personally, but still, he's at least coming off 2 losses. So this makes a little bit more sense in terms of the fact it's not like Sandhagen's on some huge winning streak. Although, let's be honest here, his last 2 wins, Song Yadong and Marlon Chito Vera. Chito Vera, very good win there. Chito was on a nice winning streak going into that fight. And Song Yadong just won a few weeks ago, very impressively too. So Song Yadong is a win that for Sandhagen has aged very well. It was a doctor cut stoppage, but either way, he was winning that fight. So I don't necessarily mind that too much. But that's kind of my thoughts on it. I understand this. I think it makes sense. I think Cory's the type of opponent as well. He'll fight anyone. I mean, he's talked about this. He'll fight the toughest of the tough. He's talked about fighting Merab as well. A lot of fighters are not raising their hand to fight Merab Dvalishvili. So from that standpoint, I don't mind it. And I think Umar does need to be tested. And like I mentioned, going through the rankings here, I think it does make a bit of sense because I think a lot of the guys that I just mentioned that are ranked below Cory, I think Umar would beat. And, let's be honest here, Umar is going to be the betting favorite in this fight, undoubtedly. With him being undefeated, I would guess that he's going to be like a minus 200 favorite going into this matchup just because of his style. And we've also seen the improved stand-up as well. That was on display in the knockout win over Raoni Barcelos, although Sandhagen never been knocked out in his career. So we'll see if that ends up happening. Now, in terms of a pick on this matchup here, it's tough because Sandhagen's fought far better opposition. He's one of the smartest fighters in the cage. I believe he's going to have a bit of a height and reach advantage in this fight. Let me just see here. 5'8", 69-inch reach, 70-inch reach, 5'11". So Sandhagen will be bigger. He's usually a little bit bigger than most of his opponents here. I think initially early pick might go to Umar here just because of the style matchup, but there's a lot of questions here. If this is a main event, which I assume it will be, it's 5 rounds. Cory Sandhagen has that in his back pocket. He can go 5 rounds. We've seen him do that time and time again. He trains in Denver. The elevation's not going to be an issue, or the cardio shouldn't be an issue, I should say, because he's training at elevation. That's what I was trying to say there. Umar really hasn't done that yet. So that's where it's going to be very interesting here. And I think it doesn't really disrupt the division. The other thing I'll add is that it does look like they're working on Merab Dvalishvili and Henry Cejudo next. At least that's sort of the rumor out there. It seems like both parties are interested. So that would take away an opponent for Sandhagen because, as we know, they're going to do Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley next. So it's kind of a musical chairs of who's left over. And if you look at it here, Sandhagen has fought pretty much everyone in the division here. I don't think there's a point in him fighting Yan again. He just beat Chito. I don't think anyone wants to see Rob Font and Sandhagen here. Sandhagen would be fighting below him. I think actually if he fights Umar, there's a bit more intrigue because of the fact that Umar's undefeated and he's got that last name as well. Obviously, Khabib Nurmagomedov, his cousin, a very successful fighter. I mean, everyone knows Khabib. I don't know why I'm even saying that, but I kind of understand the matchmaking here. And this, like I said, makes a bit more sense than the Merab Dvalishvili fight because, again, Sandhagen not on some big winning streak like Merab was. I feel like you're kind of taking that away from him if they're fighting a guy that's skipping the line here. So, yeah, initial pick, I'll go Umar on this fight. I'll do an early look on this if it does end up coming to fruition. And I think it does make some sense. And again, the UFC is doing so many events. This definitely has a fight night main event written all over it for sure. I would hope they do it in a different market. This shouldn't be in the Apex. It would be nice to see this maybe as a fight night card in a different market. I would definitely like to see that. But I got to mention one other thing here in this video because I see a lot of people online talking about how, yeah, Umar deserves it. Nobody wants to fight him and all this different stuff. How is this any different than Colby Covington getting his title shot against Belal Muhammad? I'm going to tie this into this video a little bit because there's a lot of people upset that Belal's not getting the shot. But why are they upset? Well, they're upset because Colby's getting it not based off merit. Colby's getting it because he's Colby. Now, Colby was a former interim champ. There's a lot of other, I mean, let's quickly look at Colby Covington here a little bit. And you look at it here, you know, he's coming off a win over Jorge Masvidal, and a fighter who just retired. That's not really a strong win for him to get a title shot. He lost to Usman the fight prior to that, and then he beat Woodley, who's also not in the UFC. So there's a lot of wins that Covington's had that really doesn't warrant a title shot, right? Now, you can almost say the same thing here with Umar. He doesn't have a single ranked win. He's getting to fight Cory Sandhagen. This I understand a bit more because Umar's undefeated. Like I said, there's two exceptions when it comes to matchmaking. It's you're a champion in another organization like Alex Pereira was. He was a champion in kickboxing, had a win over Adesanya at the time. That's why he got fast-tracked. But even then, he had 2 fights. And then you've got Umar, who's undefeated, and there's that intrigue of can he finish him. I understand that part of it as well. But Colby Covington, look, like Belal Muhammad deserves the title shot over Colby Covington. I think we all know that. Belal's been on a nice winning streak. Colby hasn't. So there's a lot of reason to argue Belal here, but there's going to be people who have no issue with Umar skipping the line to fight Cory Sandhagen, but they will have an issue with Colby Covington fighting Belal. Just pointing that out because I see a lot of people saying, what's the big deal, Umar skipping the line? Well, why do you care then if Colby Covington's fighting? Belal's going to get his shot. He just has to fight after Colby Covington. So that's just one other thing I wanted to tie in here. And then obviously the fight with Abus Magomedov and, Sean Strickland. That, a video where I got a lot of flack, people saying, what's the big deal? Abus is fighting Strickland. He's only got 1 fight. I mean, again, these are the same people who said no big deal that Abus is fighting Strickland, but they have an issue with Colby Covington fighting here, saying, Colby's avoiding Belal. He doesn't deserve the title shot. I mean, as many people, that are fans of Colby that are saying, hey, he should get the shot. There's also people here saying that he doesn't deserve the shot either. So I'm seeing a lot more people saying Colby doesn't deserve it. And, I would understand where they're coming from, but I just want to point out, this is another instance where a guy is skipping the line and you don't have a problem with it, but you do have a problem with Colby Covington getting there. Again, I'm of the belief that Belal should get the title shot. But what I'm saying here is that this is, similar thing where they're ignoring the rankings and they're just giving a fighter based off a little bit of hype here. But like I said, I don't mind this. I think the Abus, and I'm still standing on this, the Abus Magomedov and Sean Strickland fight makes absolutely no sense. And I'm going to die on that hill. I don't care. He beat a guy who's 1-4 in the UFC and he's getting to fight Sean Strickland, who's an established middleweight. Makes no sense at all doing this fight. Well, it makes sense because the UFC is trying to obviously fast track Abus, but it still doesn't make any sense here. So I just want to point that out as one other point in this video because, like I said, a lot of people complaining about Colby getting the shot. He's cutting the line. It's no different than what's happening now with Umar and Abus Magomedov as well. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think this fight with Cory Sandhagen and Umar makes sense? I'll reiterate it again because there's going to be people twisting my words here. I think this fight does make sense because, again, Umar undefeated. I think he beats most guys that are ranked below Sandhagen. It's not really fair for Sandhagen, but if it means for him getting a title shot, I think that's fine because Sandhagen has to fight someone. He can't just sit around. I don't imagine he's going to want to sit on the sidelines very long while Aljo and Sean O'Malley still have to fight. And then you've got Cejudo and Merab. There's all these things happening at the top of the division. So I can understand it from that point. Keep, Sandhagen active and keep, Umar obviously getting an opponent because he's had a tough time. So that's my thoughts on it. Who are you picking in this fight? Do you think it should happen? Let me know. Happy to discuss this. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Lynch on Sports. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.